Come on, Freeman. We at Radio DC's independent radio station, broadcasting here at the 12th annual DC Green Festival. I'm sitting here with a third-party presidential candidate for the Green Party ticket, Dr. Jill Stein. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
All right. And for the sake of argument, could you let us know why are you here at the 12th annual DC Green Festival?
Well, I'd say our future is looking greener all the time. We got the world is going up in flames right now. Right there at the heart of fossil fuel production in Alberta, Canada, and it's like this is what the future looks like. It's like fire and brimstone. That's happening. It's happening right now, and it doesn't need to happen. We could be creating, and I just want to say my heart goes out to that 100,000 people right now who are basically fleeing for their lives and more. So my heart goes out to them. The people who are losing their jobs, who've lost everything, actually. Their homes have gone up in flames. And this is a real heads up, I think, to us that we need to get with the program here. And I think that starts with throwing the bums out, because we could have fixed this a long time ago. There are really wonderful solutions that are on full display here today. There are jobs to be created in all kinds of ways. We get healthier. We can revive the economy. We can transform to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. That's what my campaign is calling for. And as Greens, we've been on this for a long time. Not only will this revive the economy, we can turn the tide on climate change, and we can make wars for oil obsolete. Why do we have 1,000 bases in 100 countries around the world? It's mainly to obtain fossil fuels that belong to other people and to safeguard routes of transportation. So we can demilitarize as we go green, and all the countries of the world actually need to do this. So this program pays for itself. We call for an emergency Green New Deal. And it pays for itself because we get so much healthier. We save trillions of dollars, actually, from the illnesses we don't get by just preventing the fossil fuels. And at the same time, we can cut the military, put our dollars into true justice, sustainability, security, and democracy here at home. So this is in our hands. It's all about standing up and making it so. And if I can add one more point, there's a whole bunch of crises kind of coming together at once. So you've got the environment, you've got the economy, which is not working for most people. You have the crisis of police violence and the prison industry state and the racist war on drugs. It's a whole system that's not working. And not only is it communities of color that are most in the crosshairs here with environmental racism and the targets of the police violence and the war on drugs and all that. In addition, it's young people, especially young people of color, but in addition, young people as a generation who are also in the target hairs. This is our secret weapon for winning this election. There are 43 million young people who are locked in debt, predatory student loan debt. Turns out 43 million is enough to win a three-way presidential race. And there's only one candidate who will cancel the debt, like we did for Wall Street. So if we cancel the debt for the crooks who crash the economy with their waste, fraud, and abuse, isn't it time we do that for some of the key victims? That is that younger generation that's left holding that debt. So it's time to cancel that debt. And we can do it for a fraction of what it cost for Wall Street, and in a way that doesn't cost taxpayers a thing, this secret financial thing called quantitative easing, which is...
You're making a great point here, and the math, as they say, do the math. We just recently lost our icon, Prince, under suspicious circumstances, I might add. But one of my favorite songs from him is called Pop Life, and at the end of the song, he ends it with "Throw the bums out." So I think you make a great argument to do just that. But one of the things that I've learned is that individuals don't create revolutions; conditions do. And I think you have just made a case for the conditions for a revolutionary outcome, the political revolution in this country. And let's look at the case for Flint water crisis. I think it really shows, exposes the corporatocracy, I should say, of the government's, race to the bottom. What they're willing to do to cut costs, what they're willing to do to make money at the expense of the people. I think that business model has been applied to every industry around the world and has also garnered the same results around the world. I think we can look at that as just a microcosm of the bigger issue, and our government and our corporations who are and their hands in it, and what it expense to the people. What is your thoughts on that, and what do you think should have been done to correct the wrongs with the Flint water crisis? If you had been at the head of the administration at the time, what would you have done differently?
Flint never would have happened because under a green administration, where we turned the White House into a greenhouse, by the way, for all the good things that means world over, under a green administration, we would have an environmental protection agency that's actually protecting people and which is not safeguarding profit. Because the EPA, like so many other agencies, has really been degraded. It's been degraded by the revolving door, but it's, that industry just gets appointed into positions where they're regulating themselves. So it's the foxes guarding the chicken coop here. So, as far as they're concerned, this is just more red meat for making profit out of. But in addition, they are, the Congress bears a big load of responsibility here. It's not just the Governor Snyder who needs to be held accountable, but it's also the Congress who's been cutting the funds for lead surveillance, for one thing, for looking at lead levels in kids, for lead abatement, and for maintaining our water systems. So as you say, Flint it's like the tip of the iceberg, which is not only toxic, which is racist, which is corporatist, and which is putting profit over people at every opportunity. So under a Stein administration, this would not exist because we'd have an EPA which is actually doing its job. And I might mention there are many candidates running at many levels, especially in Maryland and Baltimore. There are a whole bunch of green candidates, and I want to give a shout out for Joshua Harris, who was just here speaking with me here at the Green Fest. And many other candidates. I want to mention Margaret Flowers, who is a wonderful green candidate for Senate. So people can vote green all up and down the ballot. And yes, we have to throw the bums out. This is not just about a solution, because we've had oodles of solutions for a long time. What we need actually is the commitment to people over profit, so that we are acting on behalf of the people who need these solutions, and they can be implemented in a heartbeat. These critical issues now, from the climate going up in flames to the jobs that are being sent overseas, to the next set of corporate trade agreements, whether it's the TPP or the TTIP or whatever fancy name you have, these are corporate agreements that take our jobs away, not only our jobs but our democracy, and they put World Bank secret tribunals in charge of our laws, our regulations, our protections. Anybody who supports this, I don't understand why they are not tried for betrayal, for treason. This is about throwing away our democracy to the big multinational corporations. So this is what we've got coming down the pipeline. But you have an alternative. To come out, you can cancel your debt. Remember that. If you are a young person or you have a young person in your family, we can cancel all student debt right now, and the president alone can do that. It doesn't have to go through Congress. Just by appointing the right head of the Federal Reserve, we can do that fancy quantitative easing with a stroke of a pen and end student debt on November 8th. People can come out and make that happen. We have the numbers to do it, and I'm the only candidate on the ballot who will do that and everything else that we need to take our future back, make it just and sustainable.
And I love your energy, but just for a footnote for our listeners, because we often make the mistake of people assuming people know what we know, and so that for the record, it seems shocking that they don't know what TPP is, but because of our corporate media, since corporations control most of what we see here and read, a lot of people do not know what TPP is. So real quickly, Transpacific Partnership is where the government steps in to protect corporate profits, right? And the secret agreements, they call it trade, but it's secret agreements that you just alluded to. And for example, Keystone Pipeline, that was stopped because of our activism and people around the world rallying to prevent that from happening. Well, those companies can then sue for the profits they would have made as if there was a loss in profits, and the governments are beholden to pay it. That is just one example of this. So I just want to paint a picture for those who are listening who are unaware. Okay, and could you also give a footnote for quantum easing?
Yes, great. And also just piggybacking on what you said about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, and there's another one coming along that has a fancy name. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is for the Pacific countries, the countries that border the Pacific Ocean. There's another one that will go on, which is basically the same thing, but it's the countries that border on the Atlantic Ocean. So there's another one of these. The way to explain them in a nutshell is that it's like NAFTA on steroids. So it's like NAFTA that sent your job overseas, that closed.
NAFTA that was initiated by whom?
By Bill Clinton, who signed and sealed, and who is promoting the Trans-Pacific Partnership? None other than Barack Obama, the Democrat in the White House, and Democrats and
siding with Republicans.
Yes, these are bipartisan deals, and that's enough. That's really all you need to know about the bipartisan establishment, is that it is supported by the same big banks, the profiteering banks, the oil companies, the fossil fuel companies, and the war profiteers who are behind our foreign policy that doesn't otherwise make any sense because it's so catastrophic. The one entity it is benefiting is the weapons industry, because they get to have enemies, and they need enemies so that they can incite fear and sell lots of weapon systems. So they're making out like bandits while the world is going up in flames on that count as well. But just, to make the point, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is like NAFTA, not good for your jobs. It puts downward pressure on wages. It's bad for all protections, regulations, the environment, worker safety, worker health, our ability even to bulk purchase pharmaceuticals and bring down the cost of pharmaceuticals. They can stop that through these trade agreements. Or to regulate Wall Street. They can stop us from regulating the criminal banks and the crooks on Wall Street. They can stop us from doing even that. So this is an outrage. This speaks volumes about who's holding power right now, because that's who they're in bed with, and that's who they're serving, and that's why we're saying, we've got this critical moment. Like you were saying, it's not people who make revolution, it's the times that make a revolution, and the conditions. We've got those conditions, so this is about us standing up and saying, we deserve a world that works for us, that actually works for all of us, an America and a world. And don't fall for the propaganda that tells us it's not solvable. They want us to think, oh, it's way too complicated. Us ordinary people could never understand this. You have to be, an expert behind closed doors to understand this. That is just plain BS. We can fix this. Don't let them create a divide and conquer, that this is either your job or your climate. Actually, we can get all of the jobs.
Exactly.
Get all the jobs we need, just fixing the climate and creating the world that we want.
Yeah, because that is definitely a false narrative then, that they frame it that way. But I know you, Dr. Stein, you have to go. I really appreciate you sitting down with an independent outlet for us, and that means you are a true blue, because I cannot tell you how many people have turned down interviews here on independent media outlets. But two questions for you. I couldn't let you go without addressing some of the injustices that have been inflicted upon you personally. Can you tell us what happened when you was trying to attend a Democratic debate the last election cycle?
Great. So this was in 2012, and this was one of the final presidential debates. So this was Obama and Romney. It was the two of them. And I was on the ballot as a Green Party candidate for 84% of voters, so enough to be able to win the election. And voters have a right not only to vote, but voters have a right to know who their choices are. and who they can vote for. So I went into the debate just to be there as a presence, just trying to get onto the college campus and to walk into, because they control the audience. You know, not only does money control the candidates and the parties control the debates, they control the audience. So they have a hand-picked audience, and they don't like people who aren't going to, you know, yell and scream and cheer for their candidates. So I was a persona non grata. They would not let me in, and just for trying to walk into campus, I was arrested, not only arrested, but taken to a dark site that nobody knew about, that was controlled by Homeland Security and the Secret Service and local police. And my running mate, Sherry Honkala, and I were the only two people. There was one other reporter who was brought in, who was supposed to be reporting at Chelsea Manning's trial the next day. So it was like the three of us were political prisoners there, handcuffed tightly to metal chairs. And, you know, Chelsea Manning's contact was arrested simply for taking pictures of the people who were taking pictures of him. You know, talk about the controlling arm of Big Brother. I was arrested for just trying to walk in, as was Sherry. So we were handcuffed for about 8 hours until the press had gone home, which makes the point that they were quaking in their boots, that people should find out late in the game that they had another choice, especially during a presidential debate, which some people consider a new and exotic form of torture, because to have to listen to this corporate nonsense, you know, is absolutely, you know, mind-boggling. So we're going to be fighting to open up the debates right now so that voters have a right to know that they don't have to choose between two representatives of oligarchy. They don't have to choose between two candidates who are competing for the most disliked and unpopular candidates in American history. That's who the political parties...
Is that the result of generations of voting for the lesser of two evils?
I think that is definitely the case. It's lesser evilism that paves the way to the greater evil. Because, you know, when you elect a greater evil candidate, the thing that happens the next cycle is that people won't come out. People will not come out to support the lesser evil candidate. So the greater evil wins. This is why we've lost Congress. Congress flipped from blue to red in the midterm elections because people have been so pissed off. You see governors flip from blue to red in state after state, and legislatures. We are becoming a red nation because the Democratic Party has become a lesser evil party. And that's not okay. Lesser evilism, you know, has created, you know, it's not spoiling the elections. It's spoiling our planet. It's spoiling our economy. It's spoiling, you know, international security and peace. We do not have a livable future right now. We are literally going up in flames. The ice sheets are going to melt down. The jobs are going overseas. If our fearless misleaders have anything to say about it, they will send more of our jobs overseas. The wages aren't there. We've got a war on working people. We've got police violence against communities of color. We have an expanding mass incarceration when we should be expanding education. My campaign is the only one that's calling for 20 million living wage jobs right now, jobs as a human right. You have a right to a job. You have a right to health care as a human right through a Medicare for All system. You have a right to quality education. Who is it but the Democrats that have been pushing school privatization and high-stakes testing? I'm the only candidate who opposes high-stakes testing. We need to teach to the whole student for lifetime learning, not to a high-stakes test, which is bad for everybody and allows them to close down our public schools and privatize them. We should be funding our schools and filling them with recreation and arts and music and the things that make education come alive for young people. These are crises we can solve, including our foreign policy. with one hand, we are fighting terrorism. With the other hand, we and our allies have been funding terrorism and arming terrorism. You can go back to the Mujahideen, which the CIA created together with the Saudis to fight the Russians, established the madrasas, which the Saudis fund, that still train terrorists worldwide. And we're selling weapons to all of them via the Saudis, who Hillary Clinton herself identified as the major support for global jihad. And this was as Secretary of State. So there's no secret here about what's going on. You can't simultaneously fight terrorism and fund terrorism. We need to create a weapons embargo to the Middle East, get the Russians to join us in that, and put an arms embargo on that region, as well as freezing the bank accounts of those countries who continue to fund terrorism. We can fix this. These are fixable problems. We can create an America and a world that works for all of us. The power to do that is not just in hopes, it's not in dreams, it's right here and now in our hands. The minute we stand up with the courage of our convictions and forget that propaganda, forget the lesser evil, fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it, we can create that world right here and now. Go to Jill2016.com.
And hope can get people elected, and dreams can get some people killed. But I think it bears repeating when you point out the false narrative in terms of choosing between the economy or the climate. It's like both of those political parties that we spoke of are projecting. Well, you have to choose between my home is an underwater mortgage, figuratively, or your coastal city is underwater, literally, because that's what we're dealing with, all right? But I understand that you recently wrote a letter to Bernie Sanders. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's a lot that my campaign has in common with Bernie Sanders. Making higher education free, for example. Healthcare is a human right. Providing a jobs program. In many areas, we go a little farther and faster than Bernie, but I think that's because we're not on the leash of the Democratic Party and the money behind that party. So, if Bernie were set loose, I have no doubt Bernie would do the right thing. So we've been trying to say to Bernie, this may be a wake-up moment for you, that maybe in order to have a revolutionary campaign, maybe you need a revolutionary political party instead of a counter-revolutionary one. Because what the party's doing to Bernie now, they did to Dennis Kucinich and redistricted him. They did it to Jesse Jackson with a smear campaign that made him out to be an anti-Semite. They did it to Howard Dean, who was a peace candidate before he went over to the insurance industry. And they did a smear campaign on Howard Dean, the so-called Dean Scream that made him look like a madman. This is what they do. They fake left and they go right. They let candidates that are inspirational, like Bernie, be heard, but then they take them down. That's why they created superdelegates. Superdelegates are not supposed to respond to the electorate. That's why they were created. Yeah. So we've been saying to Bernie, let's get out of the box. That box is caving in on us right now. It's beating you up. You don't deserve this. You deserve a party that actually supports your agenda, that doesn't fight it and seek to bury it. So we'll see. If anybody out there has a connection to Bernie, tell him, answer our email, answer my phone call, answer the rest. And we could make a whole lot of hay out there right now because the sun is shining.
And I think you make a great case. I mean, we spoke about this before we came on, the fact that we have seen how two outsiders, the outsider in the Republican Party and the outsider in the Democratic Party, has really splintered both parties. And then you have Hillary Clinton riding in at with the big white hat as the mediator, and instead of her being dragged kicking and screaming to the left to appease Bernie Sanders supporters, she is actually courting the Republican Party's supporters who are disenfranchised with Trump. So that means that the field is wide open for a third party. We have seen that this is the same bird with two wings. So the two parties are two wings of the same bird. And here you are telling the truth, speaking truth to power, and I think your time has come, and which makes for a very powerful idea. So I'm gonna leave you the last word to wrap this up and talk about the outlook for a third party triumph right here in the United States of America.
So exactly, I couldn't say it better than what you've just said. Hillary Clinton is the uniter here. She's the uniter for a Walmart economy. You know, as a former member of the board of Walmart, the most predatory organization, corporation that exploited workers, denies them benefits and decent wages. She's about the Walmart economy, that is the corporate economy and the abuse of workers. She is about war. There's never been a war that Hillary didn't support. She gave us Libya. She supported the disaster in Iraq. And she supports Wall Street. You know, Hillary Clinton and Goldman Sachs are pretty much one and the same. Hillary and Bill have given $153 million worth of private talks that they've been personally paid for to major corporations that paid $200 a pop since just 2010. So this is a woman who's on the payroll of everything that's not working. We do not want to be united behind war, Wall Street, and Walmart. We want to be united for we the people. And like We Act Radio, you know, we need a We Act politics. And the Green Party is the one national party. So there are many great independent third parties, but the Green Party is the only one that's been able to hang in as a national party on the ballot for most voters in most states around the country. So we are currently the umbrella under which the parties of the left, the parties of the people are working together. We share ballot lines. We often run together. We support each other's campaigns. We are coming together. This is where the real unity of, by, and for the people is happening. And there couldn't be a more critical time for us to stand up right now with the courage of our convictions, knowing that the wind is at our back, that the house of cards is coming down right now before our very eyes. This is the time for us to stand up. You know, democracy needs vision and values and voices. It needs a moral compass. We have to be that moral compass because the clock is ticking. It's time for us to stand up and reject the lesser evil, fight for the greater good like our lives depend on it. We can have the jobs, we can have the health care, we can end student debt with a blink of an eye, we can reform police violence and make it history, we can end the war on drugs and liberate from our jails all the drug offenders who never should have been locked up and have it stricken from their records to start with. And we can have a job for everyone who needs a job, transitioning us on an emergency basis into the healthy, just, sustainable economy of the future in which we can not only survive, we can thrive. Let's make it happen. Go to Jill2016.com and join the team.
Jill Stein, 2016.com, third-party candidate, Green Party. Wish you the best, the only hope for America. I love the sound of a Green Party president. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
All right.